Hello, my loves, and welcome to another episode of the New Me podcast. I'm Mashav, your host, and today we're doing part 2 of our series on decision making after separation and divorce. And the reason I think this is one of the most important topics to discuss after separation or divorce is because everything feels like it's working against us when we're trying to make decisions that can really impact our lives, especially when we don't feel fully prepared to make them during such a complex and emotional time. In the last episode, we talked about the part of decision making that happens before the decision is made. We talked about many of the fears that women face when they suddenly have to make decisions alone. I also shared a simple 5-step framework to help you make confident decisions based on your core values. It's not necessarily easy, but it's simple enough to keep in mind during the bigger decision points in your life. So if you want to go back and listen to that episode, I really recommend starting there. It sets the foundation for what we're talking about today. Because today, I want to explore everything that happens after you start making decisions for yourself. Not one specific decision, but that overall shift that happens once you begin leading your life again. Separation or divorce is such an identity shifting experience. The decisions we make after it are often based on our new values that reflect who we are becoming. And that can feel unfamiliar, not just to us, but to everyone around us. Family, friends, co-workers, they can sense that you're changing, and that can make them uneasy. When people around you sense that change, they might push back. Sometimes subtly, sometimes not. Whether you're prepared for that or not, their reactions can be unsettling. And if we're not careful at this point, we can slip back into old patterns of people pleasing, of prioritizing other people's opinions over our own needs and values. So that's what we're going to talk about today. By the end of this episode, I hope you'll feel more confident trusting your own voice, building a daily practice that keeps you grounded in your agency, and being able to seek help and support without losing control of your own life. So let's start with the first question that usually comes up. How do I stop needing everyone else's approval? This is such a natural need. We all crave validation, and after separation, that need becomes even stronger. You're in an emotionally uncharted territory, more sensitive to disappointing people that you love, and maybe worried about rattling the other relationships in your life now that your main relationship is gone. So you default back into approval-seeking behaviors. It's familiar. It once kept your peace, but it also kept you small. There's no instant switch to turn that off, but the first step is just naming the behavior when it shows up. Once you can name it, you can start softening its grip. Try pausing before you ask for someone else's opinion, or before you accept their unsolicited advice. Ask yourself, wait, what do I think? What's my opinion? It's not that you're closing yourself off to other perspectives, but you're giving your own voice the first say instead of the last. Journaling can really help with that. I personally love voice journaling because it helps me hear my thoughts clearly before I get influenced by other people. That way, when I do bring in other opinions, I'm doing it from clarity instead of confusion. Another helpful approach is to decide ahead of time who's in your inner circle. Maybe 2 people or 3 whose feedback you genuinely value. Treat their input differently than everyone else's. You can even create 2 circles, your inner circle and your extended circle. Everyone else ideally should get 0 points when it comes to influencing your approval needs. And here's a simple journal or voice prompt that you can use. If no one found out what I chose, what would I do? When you find the answer to that question, consider trusting that instinct. Now, let's connect that to another question. How do we shift from depending on others for validation to trusting our own inner authority? For many women, especially after years in a relationship or marriage, saying yes and keeping harmony meant safety and belonging or even love. The point isn't to hate that part of you. It served its purpose. The goal now is to appreciate that pattern's role in your past and gently graduate from it, because every time you depend on someone else to confirm your choices, you lose a bit of that connection to your own instincts. It's time to reverse that energy flow from outward seeking to inward anchoring. Here's a visualization you can try. Imagine all the voices that live rent-free in your head. Parents, ex-partners, friends, even society itself. Picture them all sitting at a table offering opinions. Take a deep breath, thank them politely for their input, and then say, "Thank you, but I'll take it from here." You're now the pilot taking control of the plane. So ground yourself with this affirmation. I trust my judgment. I am the final voice when it comes to my own life. After a decision, give yourself a little internal high five. Say out loud, I like how I handled that. Keep a simple note or journal of moments when you made a decision by yourself, even when it felt uncomfortable. It will feel shaky at first, like walking on a line without anything to support you. But that shakiness doesn't mean the choice is wrong. It just means that it's a slow process. So let's move on to the next question. Who am I without other people's expectations? When you start making all your own decisions, you might feel like you're stepping away from a version of yourself that others are still attached to. I experienced that with my closest family. My parents expected that once the divorce was over, I'd go back to being my old self, the one they remembered. But that version of me simply does not exist anymore. I had to help them understand that while that might feel uncomfortable or even disappointing for them, it's a good thing for me because it means I'm growing. Growth requires calibration. Sometimes as we shift, we lean a little too far to one side before finding balance again. That's okay. What's not okay is shrinking yourself back down to keep others comfortable. You can't control how other people react to who you're becoming, but you can choose not to carry guilt or shame for it. Here's a helpful reframe for those moments when guilt creeps in. Instead of asking, "What will people think?" try asking, "What aligns with my values?" And remember, it's not your job to manage anyone else's feelings about who you are and how you've changed. You don't need to over-explain or justify why you're making the choices you're making. Now, another question that often follows is, can small, everyday choices really rebuild confidence? Absolutely, because that's how the decision-making muscle grows. Don't wait for big life choices to practice. I really believe that once we practice making small decisions, we can use that confidence when we're faced with bigger decisions. If you don't practice on the small things, it's very hard to suddenly jump into making big, high-stakes decisions because you're not equipped to carry that weight yet. So I suggest you start small. Start with decisions that have low risk and low consequences. Decide what you're going to do this weekend, or decide what your daily ritual looks like. Decide how you want your morning to feel. Instead of just reacting or defaulting, start being more intentional in your life. Even something small like what you eat for breakfast, or why are you eating toast and cheese every morning? Maybe today you decide to make an omelet. Not because it's life-changing, but because you decided. It might sound silly, but intentionally making small decisions breaks that automatic way of living where everything is just habit, history, or expectation. You start pausing and asking, is this actually how I want to do things now? You can practice this in very low stakes ways. Taking a different route home, walking around the block because you decided to, leaving the house just because you chose to, not because someone asked you to. These tiny decisions rebuild your sense of agency. You start reminding yourself, I'm doing this because I decided to. And over time, that ease with small decisions makes bigger decisions feel more accessible. Even little things can remind you, I'm in charge of my own life. Try viewing each small, low-stakes choice as a micro-repetition for autonomy. Over time, these small reps create strength for heavier lifts, like bigger life decisions. And now, the final question, one that comes up constantly. Is it too late to start leading my own life? And this is such a common question, and it comes up at every age. Is it too late? Women in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and even 60s carry this fear. Is it too late to start living on your own terms? Is it too late to make your own decisions? Is it too late to build a new life or find love again? To start over, to live differently, to reinvent yourself? I think the fear underneath isn't really about time. It's about discomfort, the fear of having to learn new ways of living, learning how to do things differently than we're used to. It will be hard and too unfamiliar. It's also about comparison, seeing other people who seem ahead, who follow the script, who already build their lives, and feeling like you're starting from zero. But you never really start from zero. You carry everything you've lived, learned, survived, and understood with you. Even if you feel like you're starting over financially, professionally, or emotionally, it's not from scratch, it's from experience. And here's something important. When you end a marriage, you step outside a script that most people are still following without even questioning. The script of school, partner, marriage, house, family, productivity, achievement. Suddenly, you're out of the matrix. And the beauty of divorce, the silver lining that many people miss, you get to ask questions most people haven't asked yet. What life do I actually want? How do I want to live? What matters to me now? And that question, that freedom, is the real beginning. That moment can feel terrifying, but it's also incredibly powerful. While it might feel like you're behind, you're actually ahead of many people who never stop to question their path. They're still living someone else's script. You're not behind, you're not late, you're exactly where you're meant to be. All right, let's close this episode by tying everything together. In part 1, we talked about learning how to make decisions alone, all the fears, the doubts, and the strategies to ease into decision making rooted in our core values. And in this part, we've explored how to keep that independence alive and trust ourselves again, even when our environment resists that change. Picture your future self 1 year from now, calm, grounded, and leading her own life without needing anyone's approval. So I want to leave you with this question. What decision is waiting for you to trust yourself with? If you want help clarifying your values so that you can make decisions from a grounded place, you can download the free Build Your Compass exercise through the link in the show notes. It takes 5 minutes and helps you identify your top 3 to 5 core values. And these are the foundations for your confident choices. If this episode resonated with you, please subscribe, rate, and share the New Me podcast, and let me know what other topics you'd like to explore during this chapter of rebuilding and rediscovering who you are. Wishing you a happy new year and a 2026 full of growth and new beginnings. I'm Mashav. Thank you so much for tuning in. See you next time.